thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're talking about the spiritual realities of alcohol. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. It's a poison that targets your brain and your central nervous system. It destroys your health, sedates your brain, and kills your spirit. Alcohol keeps the masses in a low vibrational state while simultaneously lowering their brain capacity so they can no longer think critically or think for themselves. And the worst part is that society is so programmed to accept alcohol that they don't realize that most of their problems are directly linked to the alcohol consumption. I'm gonna ask you guys a couple questions. Why is it that when you drink, you're more inclined to make bad decisions? Why is it that when you drink too much, you black out and can't remember anything?
What do you think that is?
So today, we're gonna answer these questions and a whole lot more. Let's get started. Spiritual realities of alcohol. So what exactly is alcohol? So when it comes down to drinking, guys, the main ingredient in alcohol is ethanol. Ethanol is a neurotoxin. So what does that mean? Neurotoxin means it targets your neurons. Where are your neurons located? In your brain and in your central system. So you're essentially poisoning your brain and your central nervous system, your entire body, because your nerves directly control your movements. This is why, guys, you're gonna notice when people get really drunk, they can barely talk, they can barely walk, they start to stumble and stuff. This is because they're poisoning their body to the point where they're essentially becoming disabled. And specifically, it's not just the overall brain that is being targeted. It's other parts of the brain are more affected than others. So specifically, alcohol or ethanol targets the cerebral cortex. So the cerebral cortex is a part of your brain that is in charge of higher executive functions. So it is the part of your brain that is in charge of judgment, it's in charge of self-control, and in charge of inhibitions. So what does this mean? This means that when you're severely impaired, it leaves you open for other entities to take you over. What exactly do I mean by this? So I mean, if you've ever noticed when you're out at the bar, at the club, or just in general, you're watching people get drunk. They turn from regular, nice people to a completely different person. Some people become lustful, become promiscuous. Other people become angry. They get really angry, they want to start fights. Other people get sad. They get really sad, they start crying. Other people become obnoxious, they become prideful. They want to one-up everyone. This is their demon taking over their decision-making, their decisions, their body, essentially. And if it gets bad enough, they're gonna black out and completely lose control. When people black out, guys, this is a massive sign that they're taken over by a jinn, by a demon. You know, society tries their best to program you and brainwash you to believe that when you drink alcohol, your inhibitions and who you truly are comes out, when this is in fact false. Your demons come out. Your demons take control, and then that's how you end up making bad decisions, right? So the story, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, if you guys remember, was a story about this scientist who was working on this potion that would make him to a different person. So he's really, when he was sober, we'll call it, he was a regular, really smart scientist, very proper, nice guy. He would take the potion, become a huge, massive monster that was hurting people, saying awful things, and was really ugly, right? This is the exact same thing that happens to people in the spiritual realm when they drink alcohol. So how exactly are the jinn taking you over, the demons taking you over? Well, we have to realize that at all times, jinns have an influence over our thoughts, our urges, and even our actions, right? So when people get angry, for example, they see red, they lose control, and they do terrible things, right? People get angry on the road. They have road rage incident. They might get out of the car, start a fight, break windows. So that's an example right there of a jinn taking over a person when they're angry. So when people get drunk, it just gives them easy access to just hop in there and do terrible things. make bad decisions, sleep with people that normally they wouldn't give any attention to, get into fights, all sorts of things. So when you're blacked out, these evil spirits take over your temple, i.e. your mind, and your consciousness, your soul takes a back seat and is at the mercy of whatever these demons want to do with your body. You know, this is why alcohol is nicknamed spirits. The English language is giving you clues to the realities of drinking this substance. So what kind of spirits are taking you over when you're intoxicated, when you're in this inebriated state? So if we look at the Apocryphal Bible, Book of Patriarchs, Book of Judah, chapter 16, verse 1. Observe therefore, my children, moderation in wine, for there are in it 4 evil spirits, one of lust, one of wrath, one of riot, and one of filthy lustre, money earned lawlessly. So scripture's telling us straight up, guys, that when you're drinking alcohol, you're being exposed to spirits of lust, spirits of wrath, spirits of mass riot, more on that later in the video, and spirits of receiving money lawlessly. So that's like X work. It could be drug dealing, it could be stealing. It's very common when you get drunk, you're more likely to steal. I'm actually gonna share with you guys a story. So I have a friend that when he was a little boy, his father was an alcoholic, a really bad alcoholic. He would get drunk all day, every day. Sometimes he would spend entire days on the ground, blackout drunk. And his wife at the time, or my friend's mother, put up with him because obviously it's better to keep the family together for the children's mental health, all that stuff, right? And one time when the father got really drunk, he, it's tough to talk about this. One time he got really drunk and he saw his stepdaughter sleeping and took advantage of her, if you know what I mean. So after that happened, it completely destroyed the family. The wife divorced him, left them for good, and the family was completely broken apart. All because a spirit of lust took over my friend's father and he committed that heinous act. You know, guys, this is exactly what the devil wants. What's the goal of the devil? His goal is for you to sin, is for you to destroy yourself, and for you to destroy others. When you drink alcohol, you're very likely to do all three of these things, many times all 3 at the same time. My friend's father, when he did this, he irreversibly, permanently destroyed his life, the life of his stepdaughter, and the lives of the entire family. Right, so this is why I'm making this video right now, guys. So many people, drinking is so common, and all these issues are a lot more common than you think. Unfortunately, you won't hear about it because nobody ever talks about this stuff. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Why is it that alcohol is pushed onto you everywhere you go? You're walking down the street on a hot summer day. You see a bus stop with a huge billboard of a beer that looks super refreshing, tempting you to crack one open. You go to the movies and you have Leonardo DiCaprio toasting you to success. You turn on the television, you have cartoon characters having a round of drinks in front of your kids. You listen to music. You have rappers glorifying popping bottles at the club. You have country artists talking about trucks and beer. A hard days of work and beer. How amazing America is and beer. See, guys, because from birth, from the moment you took your first breath, you've been indoctrinated to not only accept alcohol, but to cherish it, embrace it, make it a part of your everyday life. People drink to celebrate, they drink to mourn. They drink when they're bored. And I guarantee you that 90% of you watching this video right now, if you wanted to get alcohol, if you wanted to grab a beer, get a bottle of wine, some whiskey, you can do so within a snap of a finger. This is all done by design, guys. See, because the elites know exactly what alcohol is doing to you. But they keep it in place because they want to keep you in a weakened state. They recognize that alcohol is making you physically weak. It's killing your connection with God. And it's also keeping you mentally dull. Now, I'm going to elaborate more on these points a little bit later on, but I do want to make this statement. Really think about it, guys. If something truly liberated you, do you really think they would make it freely available? Guys, if you're loving this knowledge that I'm sharing with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. A whole lot of research goes into studying these topics, and at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate you. Weapons of mass intoxication. For thousands of years, alcohol has been used as a covert method of control to manipulate entire populations to the authority of a few. The ancient Sumerians, Egyptians, and Romans all utilized alcohol as a means to control their people and retain their power. See, because mass populations disconnected from God means that masses go astray to be played like chess pieces by the elites. Alcohol is a means to control the minds of the masses and keep them too dull and distracted to notice what's really going on in the world. Why do you think it's called the government? Govern means to control. Ment means mind. Mind control. See, the Romans famously used the bread and circus method to keep the population distracted while they retained their power. You see the same method still happening in the modern day. Pro sports teams travel from city to city, filling up stadiums with tens of thousands of people, everyone drinking beer, completely distracted while the world is ravaged in war and famine. Heck, LA was literally on fire last year, and 10 miles down the road, 50,000 people were in a stadium watching the LA Rams while their city and their neighborhoods were burning to the ground. Bread and circus. They profit off your destruction. Many industries work in tandem to profit off the pain and suffering alcohol brings. Just in 2023 alone, the alcohol industry made sales well over $1.6 trillion, and this is estimated to grow 25% by 2033. Perversely enough, the pharmaceutical and hospital industry also make massive revenues from the illnesses rooted in drinking. They also made over $1.6 trillion in 2023 alone. That's the same GDP of Mexico. Addiction rehab clinics, bread and butter, are people suffering from alcohol addiction. In the US, rehab clinics are a $15 billion industry and are also set to grow by 200% by 2032. See, when it comes down to these rehab clinics, guys, at the end of the day, they're not there to help people. They're there to profit off the suffering of these alcoholics. And in a literal sense, these same alcohol rehab clinics would shut down overnight if alcohol consumption plummeted and disappeared. You know, it's not a coincidence that alcohol is glorified all over the music, movies, TV. People have been brainwashed to believe that's a part of their culture. The Irish, the Hispanics, the Russians, all programmed. And it doesn't have to be this way. Last but not least, world governments make a killing from all the tax revenue from these industries and have a huge incentive to keep them in place, even though it destroys their own people. Because the worst thing for all these industries is for you to be sober and healthy. That's their worst nightmare, guys, because you're gonna hit them where it hurts the most, their bottom line. They want you to keep drinking and stay unhealthy and stay easily controlled. And once you break free from alcohol, you become freed from the ball and chain of the system. Free to become the best version of yourself that God has always intended for you to become. So what are the physical effects of drinking alcohol? So alcohol, guys, is a group 1 carcinogen. Alcohol promotes the growth of cancer cells in your body. And then group 1 is the same group as tobacco, asbestos, and radiation. So take that in. When you drink alcohol, it's the same as being exposed to radiation. Alcohol is actually estimated to be the root cause of over 100,000 cancer cases in the United States. So how many drinks are risky? Is there any sort of like safe drinking limit, we'll call it? No, not really. Because scientists have actually found out that even one drink can raise your risk of cancer. Now, when you drink 3 to 6 drinks a week, it substantially raises your risk of getting cancer. And also having heart disease, developing heart disease, getting a heart attack, and a stroke. So I actually wanted to share with you guys a map, or a few maps. So the first map that I'm gonna share with you is alcohol consumption per person as of 2020. Okay, so you'll notice, guys, that the heaviest drinking countries are in the West. So Europeans love to drink, Australians love to drink, North Americans, obviously, some South American, a few random countries in Africa. You're also going to notice that the Middle East and North Africa drink very little, if any. Right? The Muslim countries barely drink any alcohol. Indonesia barely drinks any alcohol. Right? So, next map. Global cancer rates in people under 50 years old. What do you see? What do you notice here, guys? I know you guys are extremely smart, extremely intelligent, because you watch my content. No, but for real, you notice here that the highest rates of cancer are in the West. North America, Europe, Russia, Australia, South America, etc. Essentially, all the countries that you saw in the previous map that were heavy drinkers have the highest rates of cancer under 50. What else do you notice? You notice that Muslim countries and countries that don't drink typically have the lowest rates of cancer. Right? This is not a coincidence, guys. Studies have shown that the Middle East, specifically countries that fast, like fasting for Ramadan, or implement fasting in their regular life, like Muslims or Hindus, are statistically the least likely to get cancer. So why exactly do people puke when they drink too much alcohol? So the reason why people puke, guys, is because when ethanol is broken down by the liver, it creates this byproduct called acetaldehyde. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but I'm trying my best here. So acetaldehyde is extremely toxic to your body. It's the substance that makes you feel nauseous, and eventually, if you get too much of it, forces your body to puke. Right? So normally, when you're drinking like 1 or 2 drinks, your body expels it through urine. But if you're binge drinking like 5 or 6 per hour, maybe even more, so much of it builds up, your body gets angry at you, and that's when that happens, right? So yeah, it is super toxic for your body, and it's also an irritant for your body. It inflames your entire body. It puts your body in a state of inflammation. As we all know, that when your body's inflamed, in a state of inflammation, this is a cesspool, a breeding ground for disease to ravage your body. So definitely best to avoid at all costs. So how exactly is alcohol affecting your brain? So alcohol obviously is poisoning your brain, but which parts of your brain is it specifically targeting? So it specifically, primarily affects your cerebellum. So your cerebellum is a part of your brain that is in charge of balance and coordination. So when this is impaired, this is when you start, stumbling around, start not being able to walk straight, stuff like that. So next up, hippocampus. So the hippocampus is part of your brain that is in charge of memory formation. So when this is impaired, then you cannot create new memories, you black out. Okay, next up, frontal lobes. So this is like your cerebral cortex. This is the outer part of your brain that is in charge of executive functions, such as judgment and decision making. So that's why you make bad decisions, because your frontal lobes are impaired. Next up, limbic system. So your limbic system is a part of your brain that controls emotions. So when that is impaired, you have no control of your emotions. Any emotion rises, the emotion controls you. That being said, guys, your frontal lobe, interestingly enough, is a part of your brain that is extremely active when you're praying. It is extremely active when you're talking to God. Obviously, when this part of your brain is impaired, your connection to God is completely cut off. And you could try this, guys. Try this yourself. If you currently drink, try praying to God after 3 or 4 drinks. Heck, even after 1 drink, you're going to feel it severely impaired, your connection with God. Now, in terms of long term, there's this massive deception that when you drink, your brain just recovers like that. And this is true to an extent, right? Like your cerebellum improves within a couple days. You're a little hungover within a week, you're all good, you're playing basketball, you're doing weights, you're swimming, whatever, jogging. However, other parts of your brains are affected for a whole lot longer than a few days. Some parts of your brain can take weeks, months, even years, depending on how much you drink, how often you drink, all that stuff. So specifically, I'm talking about the frontal lobe, guys. When you're drinking, your frontal lobe, which is the part of your brain that, again, is directly connected with God, that connects you with God and is active when you pray, takes several weeks to months for it to be fully repaired. So what does this do? This kills your intuition, kills your connection with God much longer than a few days. So when your intuition is killed, is cut, you're more likely to fall for deception. You're more likely to be a part of the world. You're more likely to become an NPC, non-playable character, just like everyone else, a sheeple. And you're never going to realize this because, once again, that part of your brain that critically thinks, which is the frontal lobe, is impaired for a very long time. And on top of that, not just so the frontal lobe is actually also in charge of your attention. So you'll notice that people that drink fairly often, every weekend, once a month, etc., they have lower attention spans because that part of your brain takes a very long time to fully recover. So just to expand on what alcohol does to your brain, guys, when I found this out, I was completely shocked. I couldn't believe it. Alcohol actually shrinks your brain. They scientifically proven alcohol shrinks the gray matter part of your brain, decreases the volume. The lowered gray matter volume is directly connected with lower cognition, memory loss, you tend to forget things, increased impulsivity, and attention deficit. So people that that are impulsive and do crazy stuff out of nowhere, very high likelihood that this person drinks fairly often. And then evidence also shows that people who drink are much more likely to develop dementia/Alzheimer's. Also scientifically proven. So Hollywood gives you a reference to this, guys. They show you to your face the effect that alcohol has on your mind, on your brain. Right? If you guys remember the TV show, The Simpsons, who was the drunk on that TV show? It was Barney. Barney Gumble. Right? Barney, there's a scene, I remember specifically, I'm gonna post it real quick. There's a scene in The Simpsons where Barney is studying for the SATs because he's trying to get into a high-level university. Homer comes into the room, gives Barney a few beers, tells him to relax, whatever. Barney starts drinking a beer, automatically becomes the Barney that we know and love, I guess. It becomes Barney the drunk, right? He starts burping and just says silly things all the time, right? The Simpsons is telling you straight up what alcohol does to you, what it does to people. So how exactly is alcohol affecting your sex organs? So we're gonna start off with the men. All right, so first and foremost, guys, drinking alcohol lowers your testosterone. Drinking alcohol, quite literally, is making you less of a man. And you know the wild thing about this, guys, is that since the early 1900s, society has told men, has programmed them to connect drinking alcohol with being more manly, right? You used to look at ads from back in the day. They would have cowboys drinking alcohol. They would have construction workers drinking alcohol, like flexing and drinking. Right? Even in the 90s, if you grew up in the 90s, what did you see? WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin, give me a hell yeah. And he would down a beer, right? This was all done by design, guys. It's to fool us, to fool you that drinking alcohol makes you more manly, right? When in fact it actually feminizes you. It makes you more into a woman instead of a man. Harsh truth, guys. So next up, in connection with that, increased estrogen. So not only does it decrease your testosterone, it increases estrogen. So that multiplies the damaging effect of making you into a woman. It literally is making you more into a woman. So you're gonna get man boobs. You're gonna get a fat belly. Next up, hair loss. Drinking alcohol has been correlated with losing your hair. So you're gonna find a lot of times that men become bald faster when they drink alcohol. Low sperm count. So drinking alcohol affects your fertility. Right? If you have a low sperm count, chances are low that you can have children. Right? And this can be reversed, guys, if you stop drinking alcohol. All this stuff can be reversed when you stop drinking alcohol, but I digress. ED. If you're drinking a lot, drinking fairly often, it's going to affect whether or not you can make love to your wife. Absolutely crazy, guys. So next up, we're going to the sisters. Women. Drinking alcohol for women increases their estrogen levels. Right? So what does this do? This causes them to have irregular periods. Right? So if you have irregular periods, that means your hormones are out of whack, which directly is connected with infertility. Women that drink are less likely to have babies. They have a much harder time having children. So yeah, that's the detrimental effects physically on men and women. Definitely, alcohol is not good. It's not good. So actually, that takes me to the next part. What can you expect when you stop drinking alcohol? Guys, first and foremost, I've been sober for the last 3 years. Okay, so I can personally attest that when you stop drinking alcohol, your mind is gonna be so much clearer. You're gonna be a lot more articulate, and your testosterone is gonna be increased. So in turn, because your testosterone is increased, your body fat is gonna be lowered. Your muscle mass is gonna naturally increase. You're gonna have more toned muscles. And your voice is gonna get deeper. Because your testosterone is increasing, your voice gets deeper. You're gonna receive a lot more attention from women when you don't drink. And overall, you're just gonna feel better. I can't tell you guys, when I used to drink, at the time I didn't realize this at the time, but when I used to drink, there was like this cloudiness, like permanent cloudiness that I had that affected my happiness. And now in hindsight, I realize it's because I was disconnected from God. That part of my brain that had higher executive functions couldn't connect with God, and it made me secular. It made me not a disbeliever, but it just made me very lukewarm. Directly correlated, guys. So I promise you guys, if you're drinking, try not drinking for 2 weeks, a month, a few months. You know, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. And then a fun little social experiment, go to the same places where you used to go. Go to a bar, go to a club, and watch how people act. You're gonna notice how foolish people become when they drink. That used to be you. That used to be you. But you made it. You made it. Let's go back in time. This was me in 2015 at the age of 25. During this era of my life, I was drinking every weekend, hanging out with the boys, going to the club, the bars, chasing girls. You already know. And at the time, I didn't realize the damage I was doing to my body, the damage I was doing to my soul. I found myself unable to have a good time without drinking. I'd feel uncomfortable sober, and I thought it was fun to get drunk and let loose. I had lots of friends, lots of girlfriends, and was on top of the world. Little did I know at the time that it was all fake. These same friends cut ties with me when life hit me hard, and one of them even attempted to sleep with my ex-girlfriend of mine at the time, behind my back. And all the girls, these endless opportunities that I had, those situationships never went anywhere and were based on foundations of lust as opposed to genuine connections. During this time, I went through a bad breakup, lost my career, lost all my money, and lost my way. It got so bad that I would find myself binge drinking by myself, trying to drown away the sorrow with rivers of wine, trying to deal with the harsh reality of having everything taken away from me. It wasn't until God came into my life that I was finally able to put the bottle down and flip my life around. I got married, got a good career, and had children, and now I'm the happiest I've ever been. See, because many people that drink socially believe that they are on top of the world. They have a lot of friends, and they have endless options of women. But you gotta realize that these people don't genuinely care about you. In fact, it's the opposite. Satan creates this illusion of acceptance of the world to keep you in sin and eventually to destroy you in this life and in the afterlife. As Jesus says in the Bible, if you're of the world, it would love you as its own. John chapter 15, verse 19. Jesus is spitting straight facts here, guys. The whole world loves you while you're living in sin. Ask yourself, how many of those same friends would be willing to meet for a coffee? How many of them would help you move? And then, how many of those women you meet at the bars and clubs would be willing to be loyal to you and be the mother of your kids? Once you change your life for the better and live righteously, these same people will quickly show their true colors. But unfortunately, most men want to live in the comforts of deception and sin instead of the grind of righteousness and truth. You look at the average man. The average man drinks alcohol, watches porn, smokes weed. Is it any surprise most men aren't reaching their fullest potential? The world has been structured to keep men weak and dumb. It's done by design. But the fact that you're watching this video and made it this far, God is reaching out to you, calling for you to change. He wants you to become the best version of yourself. And He knows it won't be easy, but He's going to be there with you every step of the way. And when it's all said and done, and you take your last breath, you'll be standing at the gates of heaven, awaiting eternal bliss forever. God's calling you. Will you answer His call?